Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tent Talk. This is Nancy McCready. We must be careful that we do not find ourselves in these times fainting in our minds. We must remember, to whom much is given, much is required. Which word do you focus on? That which is required, or all that has been given? So this is a great anecdote. This is a great preventative to fainting in your mind, is to focus on the one who has given all. The one who requires much is first the one who has given all. So let's focus on him, and let's continue to look unto Jesus, and let's not faint in our minds, so that there won't be any outward fainting where we stop in these days. Take a listen. I hope it encourages you to go deeper with him. Hey everybody, so are there things that you are requiring of yourself that are not actually required by the Father? Now this is just to simply provoke you in your own thinking. This is a bit out of our previous episode on given, required. Are you thinking about things that you require of yourself that the Father doesn't require? That maybe you're adding a bit of your own self-righteousness into things, and you don't realize that there are options, there are new ways of living, there are strategies that the Father wants to share with you about what it means to live like them. Now, I don't mean relaxing your grip and throwing off restraint and, never allowing anything to be required of you. This is where we understand what it means to let our foolishness be exposed to us, where we've been foolish in taking on too much, on taking on things that are not required, requiring things of ourselves because we have pride, and I've always done it this way, and yet we are not in what we've always done. We are in a very strong moving with God into new depths, new ways, new times, as He is moving, and we're learning to move with Him. Because when our foolishness is exposed, where we have either held on to things that needed to be let go, or we refused to take on new things because we were in fear or we were exhausted, what happens then is that we don't go in to new depths of His grace. His grace, it's not some cheap covering for sin. It is by grace that you are saved, by God's ability that you are saved, and you've put your faith in what He did. His grace is His very ability to live the life that you've been given. And whatever God requires, He gives the grace to actually live that way. Now that has to be learned. We have to sometimes, before it can even be learned, we realize, well, I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know that I could live this way. I think one of the greatest things of foolishness that continues to remain in the lives of so many sons is the fear of man. It's so foolish. That's not in the yoke of the Son. That's not in the way of life that we're called to, where the opinions of others, the demands of others, just what other people think you should be doing, right? That doesn't come into play. Now that takes a while to allow Holy Spirit to sift us through that. So again, I'm not talking about quickly throwing off all restraint and being reckless. talking about really learning and letting God show us places where it's like a low hum of a train that we've just gotten used to is, well, I just have to do this. This is just what you have to do. And to say, wait a minute, Father, you're waiting for me in the secret place, and I think I need to go into the secret place with you and let you speak to me in these next few days. What is actually required of you? No matter what people may think, no matter how they may perceive it, I need to know what you want in our life together. Because I know that you're only giving grace, strength, provision for that. And I just want to say to you, my friends, that if you are requiring things of yourself, if you allow others to require things of yourself that are not required by the Father, that's when you start to hit an exhaustion that's not what I would call the good tired. Many times people say to me after a long day, are you tired? Well, yeah, but it's a good tired because I've been about, what I was to be doing today. And it's like you go to bed and yes, I may be tired, but it's a tired of a good kind, which is that I know that I've been about my Father's business. I know that I've been loving my family. I've been loving nations. I have whatever it is that He's given, but it comes out of a deep place of fullness within. Because before I can love God and I can love others, He has been pouring His love into me. This is how Jesus lived, very full on the Father's love. And therefore He was able to focus on the Father and others, not at the danger of His own self. Jesus went forward as a man, as a son, who was very, very full. And so He could sleep on the boat. He could persevere. He could recline at the table. Because Jesus wasn't in a yoke of being run by what other people thought He should do. And sometimes the engine inside of us that has been running all of our life in the fear of man is, I've got to do this or people will think I'm lazy. I've got to do this or people will think, that I am not, focused. I'm careless, right? And we need the Father to really kind of parse that out and sift and separate that out and to show us, what's what, right? To get things clear. And so that takes time. That's why I tell people, don't have an impulsive response and just throw off things. But to really allow God to show you, as He did with Jesus all throughout His life, what things are required now, what things can I walk away from, and walk into. There came a time when Jesus walked away from the carpenter shop and walked away from the rhythm of the daily life He was in and walked into the most intense 3.5 years of any human. Jesus knows how to give you instruction. Jesus knows how to tell you about what's required at certain seasons, what is not required in certain seasons. But the point becomes, am I willing to let Him be the one who sets the pace and the rhythm? I don't do that. Other people don't do that for me. The Father and I do that together. So this is a very learned way of life. So in this continued conversation today about to whom much is given, much is required, we look unto Jesus and we study. The Word tells us, study how He did it. Study how He lived, and then don't try to imitate Him, but let Him actually enable you by His grace to live out life in that same ebb and flow. But it becomes that the Father decides what's required of me. And I know that if He has required it, I know He has given me His very ability. He has put the person of Holy Spirit inside of me to give me all the power, to pour the love in, to give me comfort, to give me wisdom. So my friends, are you, in the best way possible, are you putting a demand upon the life that is within you and drawing from it, and drawing daily, step by step, situation by situation? Are you learning to draw from their life within? Because I don't want to live by the demands of my own flesh, the demands of other people, but I do want to live out life with the Father. And that if He requires it, if He says, let's go this way, right? So when I say requires it, I don't mean that He comes and, He points His finger at me and says, I require this of you, you must do, as though I'm someone separate from Him. What He says and what you'll begin to hear in the secret place is, come closer and let me talk with you about where we're going and what we're doing. And let me show you how to live in oneness with me. Because much is required. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just as much as you were chosen out before the foundations of the world, according to Ephesians 1, 4, and 5, to live in this love and life with Him as a maturing son. Ephesians 2:10 says that before time there were works that were written down in advance that we might walk out and live in and produce. So I want to be who I am, and I want to accomplish the works that He's given me. I don't want to be constantly shying away from what's required. I just want to make sure that the source of the requirement is my Father. So would you think on these thoughts today and be encouraged? Love you all. Until next time.
For more information on Nancy, please visit nancymccready.com or follow her on social media at NBMcCready.